Yo, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Impact. My name is Pastor Tyler. Thank you so much for hanging out with us online today. We're excited to share this week's Devo, but before we go any further, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button, drop a comment letting us know that you're watching, and please hit share before the end of this video. Who knows? It could just be the encouragement that somebody else needs today. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you click the subscribe button and hit the bell so that you get notified every time we have a new video. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into today's Devo. Today's passage comes from the Gospel of Matthew, and it's out of chapter 20, verses 29 through 34. I'm going to read from the NIV version today, and it says this. As Jesus and his disciples were leaving Jericho, a large crowd followed him. 2 blind men were sitting by the roadside. And when they heard Jesus was going by, they shouted, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." The crowd rebuked him and told them to be quiet, but they shouted all the louder, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." Jesus stopped and calmed them. "What do you want me to do for you?" he asked. "Lord," they answered, "we want our sight." Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and followed him. There's a lot of things in our lives that annoy us and bug us to no end. Probably one of the most annoying things is when somebody or something else interrupts you.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting dog.
Interrupt.
Have you ever been interrupted? I'm sure you have. There are plenty of examples of us being interrupted in our life. Every single time you hit a red light in traffic, that's an interruption. Your phone dying in the middle of your favorite song? That's an interruption. Getting called to dinner when you're in the middle of a video game match or you're binge watching your favorite Netflix show? That's an interruption. I even had to stop this recording twice because my phone went off. Life is just full of interruptions. And even with the state that our world is in right now, it feels like our life, our flow of life, has been interrupted. Do you know whose life was also full of interruptions? Jesus. That's right. Jesus' life was constantly full of people interrupting him. Now, the Bible doesn't report on Jesus' schedule, his planned teaching and preachings, or when he was scheming to do the next miracle. A lot of those things just happened. Yes, they were part of God's plan, but here in the context of earth, they were interruptions. It seems like everywhere that Jesus went, people interrupted him. Whatever they needed something or wanted something, they stopped him and they stopped what he was doing in order to get it. Jesus was interrupted so many times that even his interruptions were interrupted. There would be times that Jesus took a detour to heal somebody, but then another person would pop out on his way and ask for a miracle right there and then, in the middle of everything. Our passage today tells the story of Jesus healing 2 blind men. Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem at this time, and when he gets there, he will be riding a donkey and people will be shouting, "Hosanna." Before he gets there, however, he is interrupted and his journey takes a halt. The 2 blind men, they call out to him. The crowd actually rebukes these 2 men, telling them to shut up, or in other words, don't interrupt. But Jesus didn't see these men or anyone else he healed as interruptions. In fact, he saw them as opportunities to minister. In verse 34 of our passage, it says Jesus had compassion on them and healed them. Jesus allowed the everyday interruption to be a model for compassion and for ministry. One thing I want you to know today is that interruptions don't stand in the way of God's work. Often, they are God's work. The crowd shushed the men that were calling out to Jesus because they thought they were a hindrance to Jesus' ministry. But Jesus stopped and said, "No, this is my ministry." Jesus turned his ear to the weak and the needy, not away from them. Jesus welcomed those who were uninvited, and he used interruptions to show how big God's embrace was. Well-known author C.S. Lewis once said this about interruptions. "The great thing, if one can, is to stop regarding all the pleasant things as interruptions of one's own or real life. The truth is, of course, that what one calls the interruptions are precisely one's life. The life God is sending one day by day, what one calls one's real life, is a phantom of one's own imagination." What he's saying is, don't look at interruptions as these breaks or pauses in your life, but consider them part of your life and part of the journey. I encourage you today to embrace the interruptions in your life. Start seeing the people in front of you not as interruptions, but as ministry opportunities. Try not to think of every interruption as just an annoying bump in the road, but consider them part of your journey. How will you respond to the interruptions in your life today? Will you see people and their needs as an irritation or an annoyance to your schedule, or will you consider them ministry? Will you be like the crowd and rebuke the people in need, or will you show compassion on them like Jesus did and embrace them? Thank you so much for hanging out with us online today. If you have a prayer request, go ahead and let us know in the comments below. We would love to pray for you this week. Thanks again for watching. Have a great week, Impact.